Oh, okay. That's good. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Dwight, the new host of the new Quality Classroom talk show. It's not yet a talk show, it's still an interview, but I'm hoping that if I do good in this one, they'll let me develop into a talk show series. So, hello, everyone. So, my first guest today is Dr. Beverlie. She is a researcher, author, and educator who specializes in outdoor play. And today we'll talk about why spring is a great time for outdoor play and just a good time just to get outside and do some outdoor learning activities. Yes. So first, for the listener who don't know, Beverly, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity. As you identified, I'm Beverlie Dietze and a researcher. More importantly, I'm passionate about supporting educators, families, and children in having opportunities to engage in many experiences that will follow children's sense of curiosity and wonderment outdoors. That's my whole focus. How can we support advancing new ways of experimentation and that sense of wonderment outdoors?
That is great. That is great to hear. So as you know, spring is here. The days are warmer, it is longer, it is brighter, the snow is melting, the grass is growing, and the environment just looks so inviting, like it's literally asking us to go out and play. This is great because like in the winter, the cold, extreme weather, sometimes it might discourage us. And so from your experience, what are some of the benefits of outdoor learning after a season change?
And so it is important to understand that children require opportunities to play in all seasons. And that is so that we can support children in understanding new information about the environment, to actually experience that sense of snow on their cheeks or the raindrops that are going to be falling to bring the May flowers, or for children to see that puddle and to run through that puddle and make it splash, and what kind of body movement is required to get the big splashes versus smaller splashes or the ripple effect. So when we think about spring in particular, and we look at it from supporting children in developing that environmental stewardship, that is the time when children notice the trees. That is the time when adults in the children's lives want to take that time to pause and to support the children in looking up, looking at the sky. What do they see? How is the sun different from what it may have been in the winter? What do they see on the trees? What do they smell? What do they hear? What are those bird calls that they're hearing? Are they hearing birds sing? Are they beginning to see those bugs come and go? And if so, what are those bugs? Uh, this is a time when children should see a renewal in life. So they may see plants that are coming, they may see those fresh flowers that are coming to people's gardens. It really is a time to support the children in advancing their interest, their desire, and their abilities to draw upon previous information that they know of seasons and bring in new information. So when I think about children and getting them outdoors, this is the time when you want to have magnifying glasses always in your pockets so children can take them out and just imagine what they see. This is the time when you want children to touch and feel the grass or the bushes, to engage in that piece. It is a time when you want to support children in skipping and, really engaging in body movements. So, that sidewalk chalk is very, very important so that the children can be making marks on the sidewalks and then jumping on those marks and making those marks disappear. Spring is a time when you really want to support children in being able to move and to experience the cold, because at times it's still going to be cold. They may find ice still on the puddles, or
In
they
Winnipeg in
may,
here for sure. Winnipeg in here for sure.
for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
And you want to be thinking about on them hearing the brooks run in the water, they're going to
Mhm.
put their hands in it. That's just what children want to do, and we want them to be able to do so. And so really, when we look at spring and as children move from the winter to the spring, open the door and look at the possibilities, and then always be thinking about what are the supplemental items that I may want to have in my pocket that can extend children's ideas and opportunities to connect with nature.
That is a great answer. So right from your answer, I get to know that children every season is actually great for children just to come outside and explore. Even winter, just go out and touch the field, the snow. But spring is special because it's the renewal season. So I feel like in terms of exploring, spring will be the best just for go outside and exploring. And like you said, always carry a magnifying glasses. That is a great answer. Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, but I want us to understand that each season brings new options for learning for children. So spring is very, very important. And then, when you think about summer, it's a different type of play generally that
Yes.
children engage in. And then just imagine the fall when there is that change in season, and as the
Hmm.
leaves start to fall, then that adds new environmental, or we
Yes.
call them gifts from Mother Nature,
Hmm.
that children can engage in, and bring them to be part of their creative moments and their abilities to look, see, think, wonder, and then move that to new ways of opportunity to engage in play.
That is great. Yeah. Thank you for your answer. Um, so I've read your blog. It is great. I will bring it for our listeners who want to check out her blogs. And I'm very impressed by the recommendation for activities that you came up with. So you usually list like the benefits of activities. You back it up with scientific sources, citation, and sometimes even from examples from your own experience, like having to deal with childcare, yes, environment. So in terms of spring, do you have any recommendations for activities to do in the spring?
Well, again, when I think about children in play, we really want them to look at their space and place and just imagine what can be. Our role as adults is to offer those, we call them materials that will provoke their thinking. So as opposed to us suggesting this activity, this activity, this activity, what we really want to do is work with the children to look and to see what they're interested in, and
Oh.
then support the children in pursuing that. So,
Mhm.
when we think of children, and the first time they see a worm, what are they going to do? They will say, where are the digging materials? I need to have something to dig. I need to see if I can find more worms. So they find the worms, and then, uh-oh, what am I going to do with these worms? I really want to watch these worms. So, that's when you have the bug containers or the worm containers. And that's when you have the books that will support the children in thinking about those pieces.
Mhm.
When you think about uh, children wanting to be on tricycles, as another example, like we're not going to say, today, let's go on your tricycles, but you're going to put the tricycles in some very interesting spaces, and then see, what do the children do with them. You may have the trikes there, and you may put some pails and some claws nearby to see if the children are interested in taking spray bottles and those claws and washing their tricycles. Or
Mhm.
maybe you put some spray paint, the spray paint in bottles nearby. So the children are seeing that scientific opportunity. What happens when they spray their tricycles? What happens when they use that same opportunity of spraying and do it on a sheet? So what is the difference, and how does that support the children in, again, renewing their sense of look what I see, look what I wonder. So, for me, it's not specifically about here are the 5 activities that we would
Mm,
identify, but rather how can we be a facilitator of opportunity that will really trigger that sense of curiosity with the children.
yes.
And therefore, it's the support materials that we put nearby that
Mm-hmm.
will lead children to put this piece of information together with this. And then they move into a process that we call ideation. Oh, I see this. I could do this with this. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can see that the play will go in very unique and innovative ways.
Mm-hmm. That is great because we usually think of what activities to do in this kind of season, that season. But from your answer, I get that just let children go outside. And then whenever they like something, we will be there to support them. And of course, like having the tools nearby will facilitate their imagination and the inspiration to let them go and do the activities. That is a great answer. Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. So my third question is that with the advancement of technology today, children they have more options to entertain themselves. Some of them don't even like going outside anymore. Back in the past, we don't have much at home, but outside there was so many things. But today's there's different. Um, Today, outdoor learning have to compete against video games, movies, and other forms of entertainment. So, how would you encourage children to go outside and learn? But when I asked this question, you already gave me one of the answers that having the tools outside will kind of inspire them to go. But then I'll just ask again so you can more expand on that point.
For sure. So the key is to have role models for the
Role models.
children with the
Hmm.
children. So again, if I am an adult and I want my children to really embrace the outdoor environment, I have to illustrate how important that is to me. I have to talk about the beauty of the season with the children. And I want to build that sense of I wonder so that the children do want to go out from that perspective. Ideally, of course, ideally, children will be out on a daily basis for at least an hour, 2 hours, and certainly far more if that can occur. So it does start with the adults in the children's lives. And then if you do have children that are really connected to that technology, then as an adult, we have to say, how can we start to support the child in building that love of outdoor
Mm,
play and opportunity using technology? And you're going to say, that doesn't sound right, Beverlie. But
mm,
what I'm suggesting is if we have little munchkins, as I like to call them with a term of endearment, if we have them hooked on technology, get them out to find things. So, geocaching is a very important way in which we can get children to use their technology and yet be tromping through the woods, be going from one street to another in a neighborhood to try and find those items. And it's a way in which you can then support the children in stopping and having that. Can we find it? Where do we have to look? We might have to look under this rock. Oh, well, I looked under that rock and what did I see? I didn't find what we were looking for, but look at the bugs. And I just happened to have that magnifying glass. And so we do that. And then if we think about children, if they have the ability to use cameras, for example, or whatever tools they can to document what they are seeing, have the children take those tools outside and say, we're going to find 5 trees that have different bark on them. And then we're going to take the photos so that we remember, and then we can come back and talk about that. And we may, it may be a day where there are incredible shadows, just the way in which the sun is placed. So we may say, we need 3 photographers today. Are there 3 children that can be the photographers? And what we're doing is letting them use that photography or engage in that photography from the creative piece, letting them support the actual technology. But what
mm,
will happen is when we show them the photos, outside, so show me the photos, they will want to be part of the shadow play. So that's how we trigger children to actually redefine how they can connect in the outdoors. And remember, we all have a very important role in supporting the children in building that love of outdoors from an environmental steward perspective, from a climate change perspective, from the notion of how we are going to build sustainable opportunities within the environments in which we live. So we take it one step at a time. Again, we try to figure out what are the children interested in, and then how can we connect technology that way. Sometimes it's as simple as saying to the children, you can absolutely take your technology gadget out for 10 minutes, and then we're going to have 10 minutes of this type of experience, and then, go back so that we can gradually reframe their lived experience to incorporate outdoor play. The other key piece is when we are outdoors as role models, we have to ensure that we have our gadgets away. We're not going out with the children to engage in play and then sit there and look
That's
at
a
our
good point.
phones or our
Yeah, right.
gadgets.
We have to
We
be
have
good
to
role models first. Yeah.
we absolutely have to
Yeah.
be fabulous role models.
Yes. And that's a really great point you're making. So instead of say like fighting with technology, so say like, okay, you shouldn't be on your phone anymore. Go outside and play. What your solution is that we will try to incorporate children hobby with outdoor play. And from what you're saying, it can be done very seamlessly. And of course, it will inspire children to go outside and then use that hobby and then even go outside and expand more. And then we'll that will make them fall in love with the outdoor environment too. That is great.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, so because we're always trying to trigger children's curiosity, right? It's when a
Yes.
child is curious that they will embrace learning and they will take their exploration further. So going back to the example that I had of the trees, if I knew which 5 trees I was going to have the children actually take photos of, I would also have baskets of intriguing materials there so that they'll take the photos, but they may actually look in
Right.
these baskets to see what is
Yes.
there, so that again you're trying to enhance or entice them to see the world from multiple lens, from the perspective of how they may deviate from that technology to really embrace that open-ended opportunity.
Yes. That's great. That's very interesting because what I get from the interview so far is that see all my question has been like, what are the activities? What should we do? But instead of activities, what I get from you is that instead of like what to tell what children to do, we should build an environment that support them. And then when they get outside, they will develop that natural interest in outdoor learning. That's great. Yes. What do you think is some of the most important trait for a good role model? From what do you need to have like knowledge about outdoor environment?
Excuse me. No, I think, when we look back on many of our childhoods, it was having the freedom. So it's freedom, it's time, and it's opportunity that are key pieces. And I will say to you that we have, as a society, bubble wrapped these little munchkins from the perspective that we don't want them climbing trees. Don't run, you're going to
Mm,
fall. Be careful. We're using all of that language. So for children that may not have an appreciation of outdoor play, when we as role models start to say, be careful, oh, you're going up too high, you're going to fall, then that puts a fear factor into the children's lives. So as role models, we have to be there to, again, support and
support.
not to be uh, hovering over the children. Give them the freedom, let them explore, let them go to the edge of the brook and see what happens. Now, I'm not suggesting you just let the children go into the brook to their knee high, whatever, if they don't have that experience. But we have to give them that exploration opportunity. So, think about children as being explorers. Think about us as being explorers. And if we look at that, we know that they need to be on different terrain. We want them to be picking up sticks. We want them to be taking a rock and throwing it at that brook. We want them to use whatever natural attributes are in this space. And when I say natural, Mother Nature has provided children with an incredible playground if we give them the freedom to do so. The more rules that an adult puts in place, the less likely that children will embrace this open-ended opportunity for exploration. So our role as role models would be to look at the opportunities, certainly do a risk benefit analysis. What are the danger points that my child or the children may experience? How can I reduce those danger points? What are the types of discussions that I want to have with the children prior to us going outdoors so that we can have a sense of, and I'll use sticks as an example. Sticks are there's great controversy. Should children play with sticks? Should they not? And there's lots of research to say absolutely they should. And so, we talk about that with the children to say, the sticks that we can use today are going to be this high or that high. And remember that we only use sticks if we are able to move them around the space without touching anyone. Sticks need space, right? So we use that kind of language. Those are the types of role modeling components that we want. We also want to be sure when children pick up that worm that we're not going to say, ooh, yuck, put it down, it's dirty. We need to be saying, I see you have a worm in your hand. How does it feel? Where do you think it's going to move? What's going to happen when the worm falls off? Where might it go? And so really being able to encourage that, because again, we can take that zest out of children's lives if we are illustrating negative behavior. And when we do that, when we use negative behavior, then over time, children will gradually reduce their connectedness to nature, and they will want that technology gadget that's indoors because they're bored. There's nothing they can do outside because we've said sticks are dangerous, worms are dirty, you can't jump in the puddle. Whereas if we look at these from the perspective of scientific foundations for later academic skills, it will change our perspective. And we will, as adults, say, we want children to have that scientific experience because we know that they need this as foundation to their science curriculum in grade 3 or grade 6 or grade 9. And therefore, we are going to offer these opportunities.
That is great. Yeah, that's great. You mentioned language it's very important for a role model, which relates to my next question. So in your blog, Beyond the Fence, which talk about letting children explore the environment outside of their familiar areas, you mentioned that as educators, we can contribute to children making connection when we intentionally offer new option for exploration in the environment in our dialogue with them and into materials and experience that we extend to and with them. So not only do we need to take children outside and play, we need to use dialogue to encourage them to extend their connection from previous learning experience to the current exploration. Can you please elaborate on how we can use dialogue to improve the outdoor learning experience? You mentioned a little bit before about, yeah, if we just use the language that, oh, this is dangerous, children could be more withdrawn and then, back to whatever the technology or what. So can you please explain more on on how dialogue is important for outdoor play?
For sure. So we have a real challenge, and this is the result of COVID-19, where many children have had less opportunity to engage with their peers, We had many children that had exposure to language with those of us wearing masks. And of course, ways in which children learn how to enunciate words is from watching lips move and that role modeling piece. So right now we have a large percentage of children that are having difficulty formulating words, being able to actually articulate words and ideas and to enunciate appropriately. So what we know is that our role in being with children is to expose them to new words. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that we want them to repeat the words after us. Our role is to illustrate new words, and when we do that over time, they will gradually build an understanding of what the meaning is. So again, I want you to think about the stick as an example. So we can identify, this stick appears to be this high. What do you think the height of this stick is? So that we're taking high and then we're adding height to it. What is the circumference of this puddle? What is the depth of this puddle? Do you see this as being translucent? What does that look like when you hold that piece of ice up to the light? Is it translucent? You might, use language such as, I see buds on the tree. Now you might say, well, buds, that's a pretty normal word, but it may not be when we think of 2-year-olds that have not been engaged in the outdoor space. And then you want to use words like aroma. There's something in this area that is giving an incredible aroma. Let's see if we can figure out what it is. And then you take the children on a smell test to try and figure out what that aroma is. You may, again, use the puddle and identify words like evaporate. Why is the puddle evaporating? Why is it expanding? So anything that you can do that will add new language opportunities to children is very important.
That is a great opportunity for them to learn new words, because usually we learn new words by seeing the words and the picture. But now when you're outdoor, you're actually seeing the thing. You don't see it on the picture. You're actually seeing the puddle. So learning new words is the outdoor environment is actually the best for learning new words, don't you think?
Oh,
Great.
for sure, because then the children can take that experience. They can reflect on that experience and they can draw upon that experience to say, okay, I know what evaporation means, right? And then, when you think about water being indoors and it's evaporating, they can make that connection. They've seen the puddle go from large to small. They now can see a container of water going from large to small. And that's what we're trying to do, is support children in accommodating previous knowledge and adding it to new opportunities.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, like we mentioned before, outdoor is really the best environment just to learn so many things, and even like new vocabulary for children. That's great.
For sure. When we look at outdoor play from the perspective of children's development, we know that it is holistic. So it is the outdoor environment where children will gain the most skills in their social, emotional, cognitive, and physical development. It's an all-inclusive environment. Whereas when we think about children engaged in experiences indoors, they are probably at least 80% cognitive based. And then, of course, there is some social emotional piece. But when the children are outside, they have to use their bodies to embrace the space. They will engage with other children much easier when they are outside. They will take that ideation with the few pieces of materials and the Mother Nature components and putting those pieces together to imagine what they can do. In the outdoors, there's also that whole notion of how children are calmer. And that's a very important piece to us, because right now, the research is telling us that we have a large percentage of children, again, with language deficiencies. We are having children with attention deficit and inability to concentrate, so their attention span. But we also know that some of those areas of concern can be reduced when children have the freedom to engage in outdoor play. So, as a passionate person on outdoor play, when I look at the health of our children and developing healthy communities, it is important for us to examine ways in which we can bring that sense of curiosity and wonderment to children in all kinds of weather and all types of experiences and seasons.
That is great, because usually when I think of outdoor play, the usual concept of the benefit of outdoor play is it makes children healthier. But we don't know that there are so many benefits for children just to go outside, and we learn about actually everything when we go outside and play. That's great.
For sure. And again, if we go back to the COVID-19, what were our chief medical officers telling us to do? They were saying, get outdoors. Outdoors is the best place for us at this point in time. It's a reduction in infectious diseases being spread. So right there, you say, okay, why are we keeping children indoors when we can reduce their potential of bringing home viruses, etc., if they are outdoors? And we know that children that play outdoors and have that vigorous experience of movement and creativity, that they have more friends. Children that are indoor children without connecting to nature have fewer friends, and they read less futuristically in their as they begin to read. So the benefits, there are just numerous benefits,
Numerous. Yeah.
and therefore it's important for all of us that have an interest in children to try and advance the discussions as we're having today, and to look at ways in which we can all influence new opportunities for children to embrace the outdoors.
Great. We'll jump to the next question. What are some characteristics of the spring weather and environment that educators can utilize to give children a great outdoor learning experience? So, for example, from your blog, The Magic of Puddles, you mentioned, the great benefits of playing in the puddles for children. So puddles are usually actually appear in the spring, because like when the ice are melting, when we have puddles. Yes. So just come back to the question. What do you think, like some characteristic of the spring weather that we can utilize to improve the experience?
Well, there's just so many, right? There's the puddles, of course. There are the new sticks that children find because, of course, during the winter, that's Mother's Nature's way of trimming the trees. So we absolutely want to advance that piece. There is the sense of mud. How
Mud. Good
important is
one.
mud? Mud
Yeah.
is absolutely vital. And then there are all of the pine cones or whatever I'll use pine cones as an example. They provide incredible opportunities for that creative piece to bring math and science into the space. And when we think about spring again, it is looking and feeling the rain and the wind,
Rain.
right?
Yes.
And, sometimes we'll say, oh, it's too windy for the children. No, we want the children to feel that wind. We want them to think about that. I often provide children with umbrellas. I look at umbrellas as a scientific marvel for children, not only because of them having to put it up and down and utilize the mechanism to get it to stand up, but the imaginary play that occurs with an umbrella. So, the moment that they have an umbrella outdoors and it's raining, then music comes to mind, tip tap, tip top, whatever is happening on the umbrella. And then again, it's that sense of I can be Mary Poppins outdoors on a
Yes.
windy day, right? So it's just looking at what is beneficial in your
Mm,
environment, and then not stopping the children. Like that is the key piece. Yes, it might be a little chilly for us as adults. Maybe we don't want to go out. Maybe, it's the wind is going to cause our hair to blow all over. We want the children to experience that. We want them to really connect with all aspects of the weather conditions. We want them to have their snack, for example, outdoors with the sun shining on their face, so that they can feel that and they can see and feel the heat of the sun. So, there isn't one particular thing that I can identify. It's really to observe and then act upon whatever those gifts of nature are within the local community.
that's great. Yeah. And in my next question, I feel like your answer is going to be so many again. What are some of the must-have outdoor toys in spring? I know we mentioned magnifying glasses. Umbrellas, good one. I really like umbrellas. And what else do you recommend?
Oh,
Is there some outdoor toys to
well,
have playing around, tricycles, something like that?
yeah, sure. The tricycles are really important. Children they want to be carrying things, so they need buckets. They
Buckets.
need shovels, right? Because we want them, if they so desire, to have instruments that they can engage in the mud. Children really need things to put bugs in. They need things to cart items from one spot to another. So, again, I really believe that there should be magical wagons in
Mm,
spaces. I always like to put moving dollies, actually.
moving
So the
dollies.
actual moving dollies that companies use into the space so that children can utilize those pieces, or that piece of apparatus to move one thing to another. I want children to have opportunities to have lots of wood. So certainly, we
Woods.
put the blocks into the space, but are there planks in the space? Are there pieces of plywood in the space, so that children can embrace those pieces? Where is it that the children can have that creative moment, whether it's an art easel or paper on a piece of plywood? Where are those opportunities? Mirrors are absolutely vital during the spring, because again, it's that reflective opportunity. It's when we put mirrors near trees that are just starting to bud, and then the children are engaged in utilizing that as an experience of science and wonderment. It helps them to solidify what is a shadow and how are shadows created. And so, we really want to be offering unique, innovative materials that are going to advance children's sense of, I wonder if, I wonder what will
Mm,
happen. We sometimes forget of the importance of having baskets of books outside. And again, when we think about what we like to do as adults, it can be very joyful to take a book outside and look at it and experience it. Well, that would be very similar to children. And I always like to put great big boots outside that children can slip in. So,
mm,
if you can get men's large boots to have those outside, then it adds a new dimension. Children put their feet in, and then when they're trying to move, we're advancing their physical activity. Certainly, there should be items for them to climb on, whatever those items are, whether it's a structured piece of play apparatus or tree stumps that they can move. They need to be able to make decisions about moving their bodies in unique ways. And so, when I think about outdoor play and the spring, I would also look at tools, on tools from the perspective of, if there are bushes in the play space, that you begin to support children in understanding the importance of actually pruning in the spring, because you want to bring that experience to the children, so they can actually be incredible pruners if we give them that experience. We want to have gardening materials. So do you have the gloves, and do you have those kinds of tools,
Hmm.
so that they can embrace their environment that way as well.
Hmm. I think it's great. So it's really more about looking at the environment and you see, okay, with this environment, what tools can I put that will encourage children's sense of exploration and their curiosity. And of course, like read more about materials too, because like now I think now I learned that books are actually great outside. Yeah, so read more about and then explore just the options of things. That's great. My last question for you is that do you have any improvements you want to make with the current state of outdoor learning? And when I say current state, I mean, say like from your past experience working with a childcare and you see how they organize like outdoor play. Do you have any improvement you want to make?
Well, I think that when we examine outdoor play, it has to start with the adults, and
Mm,
the adults have to develop that sense of passion. And that is the key piece to this, particularly adults that are working in early learning and childcare programs, because they are incredible influencers of the experiences that children engage and have an opportunity to potentially embrace and experience.
mhm.
And so it starts there.
Mhm.
Then the second,
And you made like a very good point is that you need some discipline too. So you cannot go outside and you take the phone out or yeah. So you need discipline too that comes with it. Yes. Yeah, please continue. Mhm.
yes, so that's important. And then the other is to understand that children need elements that are going to trigger their curiosity. So it can't be the same place space with the same materials on a daily basis. You really want to add some unique pieces of materials, and you want to put those materials in places that you normally wouldn't think children would look for. So again, I'll use the idea of being creative. What happens when you put paper around the trunk of the tree and
Mm,
then have children engage in an art experience there? It's very different from them working on a flat easel. So you want to be looking at what are the attributes of the space, and then how can you add new opportunities? What is the vision for that space? Where is it that children can have that dramatic play experience, right? Dramatic play is more than a housekeeping center. It should expand into all kinds of opportunities for them to use their imagination, because that imaginary play then influences their language and their literacy skills later. We really need to look at the characteristics and then do some brainstorming to say, what is it, that we want the children to experience? And then, if this is what we want the children to experience, what are the gaps in our current practice? And then, how might we be able to facilitate new ways of thinking and doing to fulfill new options for the children?
mhm. That's great. I've learned personally, I've learned so much from this interview. Instead of like just coming with activities and like a set schedule for children, start with the role model first, start with the people first. And in terms of what will encourage children, just put toys out there in the environment and then children will come out, explore them, and then fall in love with outdoor play by themselves. That is great. And thank you, Beverly. And I have actually a bonus question for you.
Oh, a bonus question. Great.
Can you name three things that you enjoy about spring where you live?
Oh, well, that's a great bonus question. And well, I absolutely love to watch the beauty that occurs when the snow starts to melt and the ice forms on the rocks. And it's just an incredible uh, gift of Mother Nature to see. It's almost like a sculpture. And then, some aspects of it, you can see the transparent portions of it. Some of the ice is very thick and it almost looks white. So that's a very key piece for me. The second is that I am a gardener. And as part of that, when I see new growth, so when I think about the tulips and the daffodils, that becomes very, very joyful for me. And the third is that, and these aren't in any particular order of importance. The third is I do begin to hear and to see children outdoors
Oh,
playing. And, it's interesting where I am sitting right now. It's March break here. And there is a yard down from me where the young children have a tent up and they've been sleeping in the tent. Now, it's still -1, -2 at night, but it's that ability for families to embrace that that's what the children want to do, and they're experiencing what it is like to sleep in the tent in these temperatures. So anything we can do that will support children in their ideas and their zest to become advocates of outdoor play is important to me.
Thank you, Beverly. And with that, we conclude our interviews today. Thank you for some very good points, Beverly. And to our listeners, have a great Easter week ahead, and have a great spring. Thank you for your time. Yeah, thank you. Yes, thanks, Beverly. So I will stop the interview now.
Good.